lecture number 8 for our course Sociolinguistics. Today we are going to continue what we have started last time with chapter 6. So we will continue language and ethnicity chapter. In this remaining part of the chapter, we will talk about language use as a marker of ethnicity, and we will talk about language policy in the United States. When we finish this topic, we'll move to the next chapter, which is chapter number 7, where we talk about what has age to do with language, and we will consider how can a language reflect the status of children and older people. So as I said, we will continue what we have started with chapter 6 last time, and we will consider language use as a marker of ethnic identity. Language use as a marker of ethnic identity. Members of an ethnic minority have the desire to acculturate to what is considered mainstream. So in any society, when there is a group who lives within the same society, but it is not the majority group, this group has a desire, has a tendency to acculturate itself, to accustom itself to the norms, to the tradition of the society it lives in. So it is not necessary that an ethnic minority group will live its own tradition, lives its own ways of thinking, whether it is religious or social tradition. So it is natural, it is normal that members of ethnic minority acculture themselves and accustom themselves to the traditions of the society they live in. However, this is not always true, because the desire will contradict their desire of the group's individual identity. Now, let's take an example of a Christian minority living in a Muslim majority country where the Christians are minority. They can accustom themselves, they can acculturate themselves to the tradition of the Muslim people, but it is not necessary that they forget their own identity. So this acculturing of the Muslim tradition to their own and the mainstream of the tradition can contradict the individual identity of those minority. So those minority can, some member of this minority can acculturate themselves to the tradition of the majority, and there are other part of this minority who find that there is a contradiction between their individual identity and what they are doing by accustoming themselves to the traditions and the mainstream norms of the society they live in. Ethnic minority members continue to participate in cultural, religious, and linguistic practices which mark them as distinctive. This can mean preserving or revitalizing a mother tongue. So let us take the same example of a small number of Christians living in a Muslim country where everybody or almost everybody is a Muslim. Now those Christians will participate in the religious tradition of their own religion, and they will use their own language, which can be different from the tradition of the society they live in. Now by doing this, they will look as if they were distinctive people, they will look as if they were different from the majority, and people will be able to distinguish them from the majority people. Now this distinctive use of their tradition, whether it is religious tradition, whether it is social tradition, can preserve their existence, can preserve their being a minority, can actually in fact keep the language they speak. So this can in fact revitalize their tradition and activate the language they speak. So by using their own language, by using their mother tongue within their own small community, they will be able to preserve this language or this tradition even though they are living in a place where not everybody speaking the same language. Number 4, members of the majority do not favorably perceive the members of the ethnic minority choices. Now again, if the majority of the people Muslim, they will not be very much happy about the Christians practicing their own rituals or practicing their own religious activity for obvious reasons. So members of the majority members will not be happy with the choices that the minority people will do. So minority people are living within a context where everybody is different from their tradition, and the choices they made will not be favorably perceived by members of the majority majority. So this is what's meant by language use as a marker of ethnic identity. So once you are a minority group and you are using your own native language within a society where the majority of the people speak a different language from your own language, using your native language will be a marker of the ethnic identity you belong to. We move to language policy in the United States as an example of how language can be used as a marker of ethnic identity. In 1990, the United States government has issued the National American Language Act, and this act, in fact, has provided a lot for the minority group, for the minority language group. The National American Language Act provides promotion for the minority languages, provide protection for the minority language, and provide preservation for this minority language. Now, according to the minority group, they find this Native American Language Act very important because it was the first federal recognition of the right of Americans to make use of and promote the mother tongue of a language other than English. So it is the first time that the United States of America announce or issues an act which gives the Americans the right to make use of languages which are not English, or which is not the native language of the country. So the language policy of the United States, different languages, and as a result of this act which has been announced by the American government, as a result for this act, different languages thrived in various American cities or states as mother tongues. For example, the German language was widespread in Pennsylvania, Dutch was spoken in New York, French was very much prevailing in Louisiana, and Spanish was also used in California. Even in the education system in California, Spanish was used as a language of education. By the mid to late of the 19th century, there was a promotion of monolingualism. Now, the word monolingualism means using one language. So, unlike what's happened when the Native American Act was issued, where everybody supported having or talking two languages, where everybody starts supporting bilingualism, meaning supporting talking two or even three languages. Around the mid to the late 19th century, there was a promotion of monolingualism, where people of the actually American people supported having only one language, which is English. This is what we call monolingualism, where the country preferred to have one single language rather than different languages as a formal language of that country. So the example that we have here is the state of California, for example, stopped the Spanish medium education, where Spanish were used as a medium for education. And even the California's constitution declared that all legal proceedings and documentation were to be conducted, were to be written, and were to be published in one language, which is the native language of the Americans, which is English. So there was two dimensions. The first one supported bilingualism, where Dutch, French, German were widespread in the different states of the United States. Then at the late 19th century, there was a call for going back to monolingualism, where everybody supported having English as the only language of education, the only language for documentation and communication formally within the United States. English-only movements. Now, as a result for language policy in the United States, there was more than one organization. There was some movements, in fact, who supported preserving English as the only formal way of communication, rather than supporting bilingualism, where there is more than one language, be it German or Dutch, whether it is French or Spanish. So there was more than one movement. Those movements supported keeping English as the language used in the states of America. And we have at least three groups. One is called English First, second is United States English, and third one English Plus. We will just talk briefly about each one and what each of those organizations, what of each of those groups supported. The English First movement argues against multilingualism, and multilingualism having more than one language. Multi means more than one, lingualism from linguistics, which means more than one language. So English First movement argues against multilingualism, and it also views multilingualism as costly and ineffective. So in terms of economy, in terms of cost, it is very expensive for the government to provide the student for education in more than one language, or using multi-language courses or multi-language teachers, for example. So this movement argues against multilingualism and views multilingualism as costly and ineffective in teaching or in education. United States English. Now this movement promotes English in education and assumes that English serves as a medium of integration among different minority groups who have different mother tongue. So again, this movement assumes that English serves as a medium of integration among different minority groups. So when the different minority group living in the United States share English as a common language, this will help them integrate with one another, and being able to talk this language will be an essential part of their integrity with other minority groups. So again, this movement, which is called United States English, promotes English as the language of education, and promotes English as the language that can unify different minority groups together and help them integrate with the society and with other minority groups who have different mother tongues or different native languages. Again, the United States English promotes fluency in English as a tool for empowering ethnic minority groups. So once you are able to speak the English language in America and you are of a minor group, this will give you more chances to get jobs. This will in fact empower you as a foreigner or as a member belonging to a group which is not the majority group. So again, United States English promotes fluency in English as a tool for empowering ethnic minority group. Number 3 is called English Plus, which means again supporting the English language to be the sole language used in United States of America. So this movement advocates proficiency in English, but not at the expense of other languages and other cultures. Now this movement is a little bit different from the previous two, where though it advocates proficiency in English, though it advocates English, it supports English, but at the same time it indicates that this proficiency of English should not be at the expense of other people's culture, other people's tradition, other people's native languages. So you can keep your own language, you can do your own culture, you can participate in your own social tradition, but you can at the same time learn English language. So you can learn both. So the main thing about this movement is it does not say that English is the only language, but it says you need to be proficient in English, but at the same time you need not to forget your native language. So the being proficient will not be at the expense of your culture, not at the expense of your own native language. So those are the three movements who supported English monolingualism, or supported monolingual society where English is the only language used, rather than multilingual society. Now what we want to know is, how does promotion of English actually impact on speakers with different native languages? Now if I am living in the United States, I am belonging to a different minority group, how can English be effective to me as a foreigner, or to me as a member of a minority group? How does the promotion of English actually impact on me as a speaker of a different language? In fact, the association of English with the mainstream norms serves to make acquisition of the language even more attractive. Now if you want to learn English and you are living in America, the association of English with the mainstream norms, with the tradition of American people, will make learning this language, will make acquiring this language very attractive. It is very much different from learning language in your own country where nobody speaks English. But if you go to America and you try to learn English, and you find that the tradition of the Americans and the English language itself, and this association between the language and the norms of the society, the tradition of the society, where you can apply whatever you learn directly in the society you live in, this will make learning English even more attractive than learning it in a different place where nobody speaks English. Members of the ethnic minority groups voluntarily become subscribers to the ideology that adoption of mainstream norms is a positive social step. Now what the promotion of English can affect people is that when you try to convince the members of ethnic group or ethnic minority group that if they voluntarily, without forcing them to do so, without making it necessary to do so, but by voluntarily doing this by themselves, and make them adopt the mainstream norms, the tradition that says it is very positive, it is very positive social step to adopt, to accept the mainstream norms of the country you live in. That is, if you are in America and people are convinced that accepting the American culture is something positive, it is socially positive, without forcing those people to accept or to adopt this tradition or that ideology or this set of principles. So again, members of the ethnic minority group will voluntarily, by themselves, without forcing them to do so, will accept the American culture, will accept the American language, which is English, by themselves, and try to learn it and try to be part or actually an integral part of the society, and make them feel that this is a very important and very positive social step for them as members of ethnic minority groups. We move to, this is in fact the end of chapter 6, and we move to chapter number 7, where we talk about language and age. and we need to understand how age is very much related to language and whether language changes according to the age of the speaker. As introduction, the book asks the question, what has age got to do with language? Well, the answer to this question is very much simple, which is age-related differences in vocabulary are often easily noticed by people. That if there are two people who are of different age, a very old man or a very old woman and a little child, if those two people have a conversation, it is very much clear that they will speak differently. The choice of the vocabulary is different. Now what we have here is three examples of experiments of different researchers who can show us that age-related differences in vocabulary are often or easily noticeable by people. The first one is by Lobo of 1972, who found that older New Yorkers, those people who live in New York, were less likely to pronounce the R sound in words such as fourth and floor than were younger speakers. So people living in New York usually do not pronounce the R sound in words like fourth. They don't say fourth, they would say fourth, and they would say, for example, floor but not floor. But compared with adults, compared with younger speakers, those younger speakers will easily or will clearly pronounce the R sound. So this is one example of the age-related differences between in using language. So older people, especially in New York, they will not pronounce the R sound at the end of words like floor, fourth, but younger speaker would clearly be able to pronounce the R sound. The other example we have from Chamber and Trugel 1980, who found that in Norwich in England, the pronunciation of the E sound in words like tell and pill varies according to the age of the speaker. So if you are a very old man, you would pronounce those words differently where the E sound is clear or not clear. If you are, for example, a little girl or little child, the pronunciation will be different. So this again indicates that there is a difference, there is an age-related difference in using language in general. The final example from Suzuki 2002, who proposed that Japanese, in fact Japanese as compared to older Japanese, which means the Japanese younger speaker as opposed to Japanese older speakers, were interested, their interest in European culture has resulted in an increase of foreign languages or foreign words in their language. So the more they are immersed in the European culture, the more their language were full of loan words coming from those European cultures, which means language of the young is different from language of the old, because those young people were interacting with different cultures, different European cultures, and this has also made a difference in their language. And this is also related to age, because young people would usually go and interact with Europeans rather than those old people who are usually sedentary, and the language they speak is not full of any loan words coming from any other language, be it European or non-European language. So those are just examples showing us how age-related differences can be found in language, how age can be influential when it comes to language and speaking language. So age as an important cultural category, age as a social category and as a means for determining duties, rights and privilege. So we need to understand how age is important. Age is important because your age can determine whether you can attend school. So whenever you want to register for school or for university for the first time, the first question they might ask you, how old are you? Are you of the appropriate age to come to the school? So you need to be of a specific age so that you can start or you can attend the school. Similarly, when you want to get married, it is not everybody who wishes to get married he can do so. So you need to be of a legal age, of a specific age that is already prescribed, so that you can get married to someone. Again, when there is election, be it a presidential election or any other type of election, not everybody can vote, but it is age who determine who can vote or not, and it is age who determine whether young people can determine at this year or at the coming year. So according to how old are you, we can determine whether you can vote, you can get married, and whether you can attend school. So this means there is a very strong tendency there is a very strong tendency in English to place the adjective expressing most defining characteristics closest to the noun it modifies. So what does that mean? If you have those two examples, the old intelligent women, now because the adjective or the main adjective describing the women is old, according to the English language, there is a tendency that the adjective will be immediately the noun being described will be immediately following the main adjective. So I would expect old to be next to the word women, so the old women, but not the old intelligent women. So we need to have the main adjective adjacent or next to the noun it modifies. So instead of saying the old intelligent woman, I would say the intelligent old woman, where the common tendency of English is to have or to place the adjective expressing the most defining characteristics closest to the noun. So I would say the old intelligent woman is not really natural, rather than I would say the intelligent old woman. Next, we will discuss labeling age groups. So we need to know how many age groups do we have and how are we going to label them. Age groups can be classified into three main groups. One is people who are under 5 years old, basically babies and children, and people who are between 20 and 60, so usually those who are adults and above, and over 60 where people become very old. The over 65 people can have large number of specialized age group labels, and in an example, we usually call those people, they are aged, they are the elderly, senior citizen, we sometimes call them pensioners, or we can even say they are retired people or retired persons. So there are many adjectives that we can use to describe those people. What we have here is just a description or labeling of those groups, talking about age group, underlying evaluation of early childhood and old age. So what are some of the adjectives that seems to belong to a particular age group? For example, for the elderly we would say wise, dignified, or frail, which means fragile. For the young children we can say pouncing, cute, pratty, misbehaved. Now there seems to be several adjectives that are used very frequently to describe both these groups, the elderly and the young children group. We can say little, dear, sweet, fussy, cranky, stubborn, foolish, etc. So we have several adjectives that we can use to cover or to describe both groups. Talking about age group, what about childhood? Children are usually problematic, they are vulnerable, they can easily be hurt because they are still weak. They have doctors of special terms, we call them pediatrician, and they are likely to collect many donations according to different cultures, where people can donate for the young children, to help them build schools, to help them educate themselves, etc. They have special legal institution designed to protect them. Now, people who are under the legal age usually have some institution who are especially designed to protect those people who have not yet arrived the legal age. The very young children are financially dependent on their parents, so they do not care, they are financially secure. Children are assumed to become productive member for the society, and there are several demeaning terms describing young children. We are not going to have any example of demeaning terms here. By contrast, or old age is also problematic. It is also vulnerable. Old people have doctors of special terms. Old people are likely to collect many donations as well. Old people have a special legal institution designed to protect them, and they are often seen, and they see themselves as no longer capable of contributing to the general prosperity of their families or of their society, because they have become very old. They can no longer work, so they have retired. They cannot provide money for their family, they cannot earn money for the society, so they are always looked at as no longer capable of contributing, of providing their families or providing their society, because they have reached this age where they cannot work. Old people or old age has always the fear of death, because they have become old. The next step is to die. There are vast insulting or demeaning terms which are used to describe old age, just like wrinkles, fossil, etc. 20 to 60-year-old, which is the group age in between, from 20 to 60-year-old. Those people within this group, there is no special term for doctors treating them, unlike old age people and unlike young children. They are unlikely to collect any donation. They will not benefit from any donation because they are mature, they are adult, they can work, so they do not make use of any donation provided. And virtually there is no insulting, demeaning terms that describe this group of people who are from 20 to 60 years old. Now this brings us to the end of lecture number 8. Next lecture we will continue this chapter, then we finish chapter 7 before we move to chapter 8. Thank you very much for this lecture. Thank you.